Crockett for her opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you so much for your opening.
Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce to some and reintroduce to others Representative Jasmine Crockett from Texas. I haven't really been following the political spectrum since Trump got back into office. To be honest, the idea of politics just turned me off after the election, and how betrayed we were as a people, given the way that some people voted. But recently I came across the video where I saw this little black woman standing up to the tyranny of the Trump administration, called his bluff with her chest, poked out ready to address the situation, and literally went head-to-head with Trump on the national stage and refused to bow down. So I started doing some research into this woman, and let me tell you, some of the things that she says are absolutely amazing for someone in Congress to say to a president.
Trump's Justice Department terminated the Bureau's incentive pay plan, effectively cutting Bureau officers and other employees' pay anywhere between 10 and 25%. This plan, of course, helped to retain and recruit people for jobs within the BOP. Then on March 27, 2025, Trump issued an executive order eliminating BOP's labor union, which is comprised of roughly 30,000 officers and staff. All this comes after GAO added BOP to its 2025 high-risk list in January due to all of the problems the BOP is facing. A GAO highlighted BOP's, quote, long-standing staffing challenges present a serious threat to the safety of staff and incarcerated people. BOP also faces challenges with aging and deteriorating infrastructure, which likewise affects safety. It also needs improvements in planning for programs to prepare incarcerated persons for release. Better monitoring and evaluation are needed to improve management of the federal prison system, end quote. So does Trump take these issues and threats to safety seriously? Absolutely not. Instead, he made the deranged, delusional decision over the weekend to open up Alcatraz as a prison that was literally shut down because it was too expensive and too impractical to run. Honestly, you can't make this stuff up. Please tell me how any of this makes sense. Stripping Bureau employees of their collective bargaining rights, cutting pay and benefits at a time where the Bureau was ranked the worst place to work among all federal sub-agencies and offices, and we have more than 450 offices. Having staff like prison teachers, cooks, nurses, and monitors being forced to serve as correctional officers because BOP has too few officers to actually do the job, wanting to place even more of a strain on the system by trying to house migrants and children in Bureau facilities.
Your response?
The fact that you just got done engaging in a conversation where we have a president of the United States who has no idea about the oath that he just took on January 20th tells me everything that I need to know. He didn't even have good sense enough in that same interview to say something as simple as, yes, I will follow the Constitution. You know, the thing that actually derived from the oath that he was supposed to take. And he supposedly took an oath, which there's a lot of people that point out that he never put his hand on the Bible, even though he acts as if he could somehow be the Pope. But nevertheless, that oath specifically says that you will defend the Constitution. So the idea that you are now taking the Constitution and, as I said at the DNC, putting it through a paper shredder is a problem. And I think that this should not be partisan. This should be right versus wrong. A lot of the things that this administration is doing, they don't have anything to do with partisanship. This is right versus wrong. And right now, they are consistently wrong.
So President Trump referenced the notion you're the future of the Democratic Party. You are pitching fellow Democrats on a run for the top position on the House Oversight Committee.
Yeah.
The current top Democrat is stepping down because of illness, according to Politico, says that you're seeking that position. Do you think you are the future of the Democratic Party? And if not, who else is?
I don't know that I'm the future of the Democratic Party, but I do know that in this moment, we need people that are unafraid
and willing to go after this administration for the good of the entirety of the country. And I think that that is an opportunity that I would have sitting as the ranker on oversight. We will be able to conduct investigations. And as they are not wanting the American people to know about things such as what's going on with FAA, as you were just talking about Newark, or what's going on as it relates to our food, or what's going on as it relates to these firings and how that is impacting, say, our veterans that are trying to go and seek the treatment that they need. They don't want to be transparent and open with the American people. And I want to do that. I want to make sure that we are shining a light on all the darkness that they are bringing to our country.
Kind of funny that everyone gets up in arms when a woman who was attacked by the so-called leader of this country actually stands up for herself and defends herself against the bully-like tactics of your leader. This is one woman you don't want to call out without expecting to get your ass handed to you in kind.
Ms. Crockett from Texas.
Thank you so much. It is so interesting that I just learned today at 44 years old that the Republicans are going to be the ones to save women. The same Republicans that have been, say, for women's reproductive acts, or the same Republicans that have stood for the Equal Rights Act, which would hopefully get women to equal pay, or the same Republicans that just this Congress voted for the SAVE Act, which we know would disenfranchise women from even being able to vote. But let me tell you, they are our saviors, and so I am so happy to be here today, because otherwise I would not have an idea that I had a savior in the Republicans. So let's also talk about the fact that it's only been 100 days, 100 long, terrible days for anybody that absolutely believes in reality, because what we know is that they have terminated staff responsible for enforcing federal protections against sex-based discrimination. Sounds like that's pro-women. Or they've cut funding for domestic violence survivor services. Sounds pro-woman to me. Or they've prohibited funding for research affecting women's health. That definitely sounds pro-women to me. Essentially, they closed the Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights. Again, sounds like they are fighting for us. And instead of providing oversight over these actions, Congressional Republicans have been working to execute one of the most aggressive anti-women legislative agendas in history. And yet they're here today trying to convince the American people that discriminating against trans people is somehow the only way to protect women. This hearing has nothing to do with improving government efficiency. It's another attempt by Republicans to distract from their demonic and disastrous policies that are making it more difficult for Americans to make ends meet. So,
This is why you don't want to piss off a black woman in politics. This woman is about to cook everybody on this panel like a Christmas ham or a Thanksgiving turkey.
Ms. Graves, I want to play a game. It's called Trump or Trans. You ready?
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to tell me whether or not it is Trump or trans people that are responsible. You understand?
Got it.
Okay, very good. The first one, gutted medical research.
Trump.
Kidnapping Americans and sending them to foreign countries, a.k.a. deporting them.
Trump.
Driving us into a recession.
Trump.
Increasing the cost of everything.
Trump.
Waging an idiotic tariff war.
Trump.
Harming farmers.
Trump.
Ignoring the Constitution.
Trump.
Proposing to take away Social Security.
Trump.
Cutting health care.
Trump.
Firing government workers who keep our country safe.
Trump.
Encouraging an environment of hate and divisiveness.
Trump.
Thank you so much. This committee could be engaged in actual oversight of fraud, waste, abuse, and mismanagement. So let's talk about waste. Like Trump's plan to spend almost $100 million for his little birthday parade. Or how he spent 25% of his first 100 days golfing, costing taxpayers tens of millions of dollars. In fact, it's a little bit over 30 million at our last estimation. In fact, President Trump is on pace to spend more than $1 billion of taxpayer dollars just on golfing. Yet the Republicans have been silent. So they must think spending taxpayer dollars on the president's golfing trips is more important than providing health care to their constituents. And when I talk about constituents, we're going to talk about the ones on this committee. So if we look at Texas 26, 39,000 children look to potentially lose their Medicaid with the cuts that they are about to vote on for reconciliation. 88,000 in Georgia 3, 68,000 in Missouri 7, 79,000 in Tennessee 2, 86,000 in South Carolina 4, 50,000 in Texas 04, 85,000 in Texas 27, and in Georgia 14, 111,000. And if you add that up just on this committee, we have 606,000 kids that are relying on us to do right by them. And instead, we playing these crazy games because we worried about 10 trans folk that are in sports right now in college. I wasn't elected to be engaged in these fights. I was elected to make sure that those kids, the kids that they are about to neglect with these terrible votes that they're about to take, I was elected to protect them and to make sure that they could grow up and have all the opportunities. But let's keep on track. Now, when we look at how much they are spending on, let's look at fraud. We could investigate whether the White House and the members of this subcommittee engaged in insider trading and market manipulation. Maybe it's a coincidence that the chairwoman brought hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stock the day before Trump announced a 90-day pause on tariffs.
This has got to be the boldest move I've ever seen anyone on the subcommittee do. She called out the chairwoman for trying to pull some slick stuff and actually put together a giant slide just to drop the point home. This woman is so smooth that homegirl didn't even realize it until someone else mentioned it.
But I guess we'll never know. So finally, let's talk about abuse. Like how the Republicans have let Elon steal data of Americans and his competitors to make himself even richer. Look, don't let these hearings distract you from their destruction. This is rage baiting instead of conducting oversight over the issues that Americans actually care about. And with that, I will yield.
The gentlelady's time is expired.
Madam Chair,
I now recognize.
Madam Chair, I move down to take down her words impugning you. It's saying you committed a crime.
Without objection, so ordered.
Say what? That's not.
See how. The committee will
Point of
suspend. The
parliamentary
committee will
inquiry.
suspend.
Point of parliamentary inquiry.
We're going to go with hers first, right?
Madam Chair.
The committee will suspend.
Point of
The
parliamentary
committee will
inquiry.
suspend.
Point of parliamentary inquiry.
We're going to go with hers first, right?
Madam Chair.
The committee will suspend. The member will state the words she wishes taken down.
Okay. The words alleging a criminal act by the chairman.
At this point, Representative Crockett was
What
about to raise
words?
all kinds of hell. Just keep your eye on her.
We will have
The committee will suspend. The clerk will go over the recording with the suspend.
I thoroughly believe that she must have some hood parents because they definitely taught her to stand up and fight when needed, especially when someone attacks her verbally. But also understand that this woman is with the shit too. Just watch what happened when Representative Mace stepped out of line.
We got there because I tried to make it clear how many civil rights, it doesn't just boil down to one conversation, but I can see that somebody's campaign coffers really are struggling right now. So she gonna keep saying trans, trans, trans so that people will feel threatened. And child, listen, I want y'all to tell me whether or
Do
not.
not call me a child. I am no child.
I want
Don't
to
even
find
start.
out
I am a grown
which
woman.
of those
I am 47 years
emails
old. I have broken
actually
more
have.
glass ceilings than you
Chairman,
ever
I
will.
am reclaiming my time.
You will not do that. I
Order.
am not a child.
I am
not a
reclaiming
child.
my time.
If you want to take it outside,
My time.
if you want to take it outside,
My time.
if you want to take it outside.
Boy, stop.
Girl fight! Recognizes Ms. Crockett.
No, point of order, Mr. Chairman.
State your point.
Is it allowed in the rules for a member to incite violence against another member? I mean, she said she wants to take it outside with.
Hey, I have the First Amendment right too,
And
young
so
man.
I'd like those words to be taken down.
Clearly, Representative Mays had no idea what she was asking for. When she said to take it outside, I'm fairly confident that Jasmine Crockett would have literally mopped up the steps of the Congress floor with Representative Mace and would have wrung her out to dry on the steps to reflect on her poor, childish, immature decision-making.
I want you to feel left out of this conversation. So I'm going to make sure I ask you some questions. Let me know if you're having problems answering them, because they really should be yes or no. Let's see. You're the executive director for the America First Legal, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And America First Legal is a member of Project 2025, which is dedicated to creating the playbook for the next conservative administration and what it calls the Project Pillars, correct?
We are proud contributors to Project 2025.
Okay. And are you familiar with Project 2025's mandate for leadership?
In fact, I am.
Okay. And in fact, you wrote some of the sections of this mandate related to the DOJ, correct?
Sure did.
And the mandate outlines policy priorities for the next conservative president. Is that correct?
It does.
You've done a great job. I just want to let you know. All right, so let's walk through some of the provisions of the mandate. It calls for eliminating the Department of Education, eliminating the Department of Commerce, deploying the military for the use of domestic law enforcement against protesters under the Insurrection Act of 1807. It also has the repealing of Schedule F status for thousands of federal employees to allow a president to replace career civil servants with unqualified partisan loyalists. That's probably my favorite of it. It also prohibits the FBI from combating the spread of misinformation and disinformation, like Russia and China, who are actively trying to interfere with American elections. I don't know why or how anybody can support Project 2025. And I know that there was allegedly a joke about dictators and whether or not that's funny, but in the United States of America, dictatorships are never funny, and Project 2025 is giving the playbook for authoritarianism as well as the next dictator to come in. Have any of you ever heard of Project 2025? This isn't a trick question either, and no one has responded. So let me help you. Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to enter the Heritage Foundation's mandate for leadership, the Conservative Promise, Project 2025, Chapter 10, Department of Agriculture, pages 289 through 318 into the record.
Without objection.
Thank you so much. This action plan, written by Trump's closest advisors, has a whole lot to say about the Farm Bill that I don't think my colleagues on this committee will like. It calls for the elimination of the sugar program, which would destroy what is left of our domestic sugar industry at a time when they are already struggling. These Trump advisors also call to eliminate the Vital Conservation Reserve program, pulling the rug out from farmers and ranchers all across the country. And that is just the tip of the iceberg. I encourage everyone watching this to read what I just entered into the record. Let me try to sum it up in just a couple of words. My question for each member of the panel, in a word, what would be the impact if the next Farm Bill completely eliminated ARC and PLC payments? If there's anyone that can.
I look at the Democrats, they're in total disarray. They have a new person named Crockett. I watched her speak the other day. She's definitely a low IQ person. And they said, she's the future of the party. I said, you have to be kidding. I don't know what they're going to do.
Let's bring in the person he name-checked there, Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas. Congresswoman, your response.
The fact that you just got done engaging in a conversation where we have a president of the United States who has no idea about the oath that he just took on January 20th tells me everything that I need to know. He didn't even have good sense enough in that same interview to say something as simple as, yes, I will follow the Constitution. You know, the thing that actually derived from the oath that he was supposed to take. And he supposedly took an oath, which there's a lot of people that point out that he never put his hand on the Bible, even though he acts as if he could somehow be the Pope. But nevertheless, that oath specifically says that you will defend the Constitution. So the idea that you are now taking the Constitution and, as I said at the DNC, putting it through a paper shredder is a problem. And I think that this should not be partisan. This should be right versus wrong. A lot of the things that this administration is doing, they don't have anything to do with partisanship. This is right versus wrong. And right now, they are consistently wrong.
So President Trump referenced the notion you're the future of the Democratic Party. You are pitching fellow Democrats on a run for the top position on the House Oversight Committee.
Yeah.
The current top Democrat is stepping down. because of illness, according to Politico, says that you're seeking that position. Do you think you are the future of the Democratic Party? And if not, who else is?
I don't know that I'm the future of the Democratic Party, but I do know that in this moment, we need people that are unafraid and willing to go after this administration for the good of the entirety of the country. And I think that that is an opportunity that I would have sitting as the ranker on oversight. We will be able to conduct investigations. And as they are not wanting the American people to know about things such as what's going on with FAA, as you were just talking about Newark, or what's going on as it relates to our food, or what's going on as it relates to these firings and how that is impacting, say, our veterans that are trying to go and seek the treatment that they need. They don't want to be transparent and open with the American people. And I want to do that. I want to make sure that we are shining a light on all the darkness that they are bringing to our country right now.
So President Trump says his administration's latest self-deportation policy will allow some migrants a potential path back to the U.S. DHS also says it will pay an additional $1,000 to people who verify that they have left the U.S., people in this country illegally, who have left the U.S. and returned to their home country. I want you to listen to what White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller said about this a few days ago.
A single illegal alien family over the course of its lifetime may cost the U.S. taxpayers over $1 million. So when you give an illegal immigrant a check for, say, $1,000 or $2,000, whatever it may be, $3,000 to leave the country, you're saving taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars. It also saves money relative to us having to go out and find that illegal alien and physically arrest them and deport them.
You represent a border state. Obviously, there are a lot of undocumented migrants in Texas. What do you make of this? Would you advise any undocumented individual who comes to you that maybe they should take the money and go back to their home country? What's your take on it all?
I wouldn't trust this administration for anything. First of all, they are terrible about paying their bills, number one. Number two, most of those people that have come over, regardless of what this administration said, they came over because they were fleeing things such as the fact that they don't have the opportunity to work and earn a living, or they're fleeing political violence. And so what is $1,000 if you're going back to a place where you may lose your life? They risk their lives, many of them coming over here in the first place. That's number one. Number two, I want to see some numbers. Where in the heck did you just pull this number out of your back pocket saying that they're costing us approximately $100 million? I'm sorry, not $100 million, $1 million for each undocumented person. The only numbers that we have show that we receive approximately $100 billion in tax revenue from undocumented people, so much so that they decided that they want to go to the IRS and get the IRS to help them as they go and seek these people. You know why? Because they've been working and they've been doing the jobs that now they want to roll back child labor protections and make sure that poor children are the ones that are doing those jobs, because now we're going to have those vacancies, if we're going to have jobs left at all, as we continue to endure the grind of this failed experiment around this tariff war.
There's a spirit that burns in some people, a flame for justice. And Jasmine Crockett, you have that fire.
I've always fought for what's right. To be perfect.
Would he make life easier on himself to just...
To be perfectly honest, I don't really care. I'm going to be honest, because this is supposed to be about impeaching the president. But when you have idiots, and I am intentionally calling her an idiot, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who wants to flash nude pictures, I wouldn't take these people seriously, right? Like, so are you wanting me behind closed doors because you want to dig into my personal sexual life? Does that have anything to do with the president of the United States and him being impeached? If we had serious people, then I probably would care, because I would say this is a serious body of people that are looking for something because they have something. But they have been investigating Hunter for years. It started under the Trump administration. If you had something, I promise you, they wouldn't have held back. And so it's a bunch of games. You know, what his lawyers think is best for him, then so be it. But to say that he's spitting in the face of Congress is just false. He has tried to present himself. He has tried to present himself under the parameters that were laid out by our chairman. And, you know, again, they just change their minds. They do what they want to do. They're just kind of blowing by the wind. So was given an opportunity to decide how he was going to conduct hearings going forward. Right. The reality is that there can be a complete devolution of this process, or you can get it under control. Unfortunately, there has been this situation with Marjorie where she is a bully, and no one ever responds. And so the idea
idea was she would just get away with it again. And for me, correct, she basically just mimics Trump. And because she mimics Trump, she is one of their top fundraisers, of course. Period. She is the 5th highest fundraising member of the Republican Party, behind those in leadership, because she is rewarded for her antics and for the destruction of our institution. These are people that not only were saying on January 6th, let's literally physically tear down the institution, but we have people that are tearing our institution apart from within. And that is a problem. And see, the thing is, it's not about partisanship at all. It's about respect. And it's about making sure that you're doing the work of the people. I will work with anybody that wants to make this a better country, and we don't have to agree on everything. But where we can find common ground, let's get to work and stop doing this ridiculousness.
So you see, this woman does not play games on her name. She tells it like it is, and isn't about to lay down for anyone. A woman that little girls can look up to, and a woman that Americans can trust to stand up for them, like she does for herself against the haters of this current Republican Party. I want all politicians to take note that the bullying and hateful retaliatory tactics will not pass by this woman. She's invested, committed, and down for the get down. All in an effort to make positive changes in this country. The divided states of America. Come correct or get corrected.